sick of hiding.
How is making decisions. And whatever course you are charting, I choose you. My husband.
We need to unite Scotland.
Robert the Bruce is an outlaw. Any man or woman who would give shelter to him or his ranks is to be executed without trial.
The people are desperate for justice.
I serve Robert Bruce! Join us to free
I have 50 men to fight the strongest dog in the world. This is how we do it. Take the land back castle by castle. You could fight for God, for country, for family. I do not care, so long as you fight!
Please turn all your cell phones to silent. Thanks so much, and we'll begin in a moment.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Whoa! You guys are excited, aren't you?
Hello, Toronto!
This is a very exciting night for us.
I'm really freaking excited to be here tonight.
What a great audience.
I'm so excited to be here. It's such a great honor.
And I'm so honored to be able to show my film to this august crowd.
What's really fun is people who love film, and you are all that, and we're very proud and happy to be here with all of you.
We should not be afraid to tell stories because we are afraid that people will judge.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity and a platform to be able to showcase our work as female filmmakers.
This is for my parents who couldn't come, so thank you. I'm going to prove it to them. I did it!
I've just realized what TIFF actually stands for. Toronto is fantastic.
This is the story of our city, and we're a very proud city, and I want the world to see it.
Welcome, everybody, to the press conference for Outlaw King, and congratulations to the cast, director, and producer of the film. Saw it last night, and it is epic in every way. And the thing that I loved about this movie so much is that it is, the battle sequences are absolutely epic, but it's also very intimate. It's this hybrid of epic intimacy that I don't know that I've seen really portrayed that easily or comfortably on screen before. Tell me a little bit about finding the balance between those two elements, because there is literally something for everybody here.
Well, that was, I mean, I tried to call it the sort of method epic realism, and that was sort of one of the ideas of it, was to be able to get close to the characters and to understand them, to allow a lot of intimacy, a little bit of poetry, but also be able to expand the film into very wide vista, and obviously some very intense and hopefully quite realistic warfare scenes and other scenes of medieval life.
I've read, and this is David Mackenzie, by the way, the director of the film. I've read that you like to keep things loose on set, and I kind of get a sense of that in this film, except in the scenes when there are 300 horses on a battlefield and you guys are in harm's way all the time. I can't imagine that it's that loose. Tell me a little bit about that. I know you had a documentary filmmaker as a cinematographer, and that makes a difference, but tell me about that.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's never that loose. You know, I mean, you're trying to allow the opportunities for the actors to interact and to find lovely spontaneous moments. But in terms of the coordination of the battle scenes and things like that, everyone was very highly trained. They all had their own little patterns, and you know, we shot it in a very controlled way. But we were in amongst the elements. It was very muddy. It was, you know, the weather was sort of constantly changing, and we were trying to take advantage of everything we could and trying to make it feel as connected to the grim reality of what that must have been like.
I've heard how grueling the shoot was. Chris, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about the training and preparing for this. I understand you didn't really know who Robert the Bruce was when you were going into making it. So tell me, why this character? And then once you realized how hard it was going to be, why jump in with both feet?
You're right. I did not know this historical character, this man, and there's a ton of pretty dry nonfiction to read, which I bore through, and just to get a sense of who he was and where he was at what time. You know, it's a 700-year-old man and story, so the information on him is much, but little in the way of kind of psychoanalytic. There's no, you know, My Memoir, My Life by Robert Bruce. So there was that aspect of it, and then obviously riding a horse and the accent and swords and whatnot, so there was plenty of that. And really the reason I jumped in was because of David. I had a beautiful experience making our last film, and I've made a lot of big films, but I've never made a big film with a man or a human or a director or an artist of the sensibility of David's, and we like to call it jazz filmmaking, where you, you know, you have a structure, but there's room to play the note of I don't know, and there's much of this man that we jumped into this thinking, I don't really know what he's thinking or why or where, the wherefore, and I love that, and because David calls them happy mistakes, but there's a floating rhythm you can get in there that's terrifying but very, very fun.
Aaron, there's a quote from you that I love, and it says here, when you're being directed by David, you have to stop acting and become. Tell me what that means to you.
Well, Mackenzie has this innate ability to create such an authentic environment, and it just allows the actors to play and let go and really immerse themselves in that period in time. And I think that's what Chris was saying about that jazz sense of filmmaking. I mean, improvising, right? But yeah, we spent weeks and months training to learn stunt sequences and stuff. But that's different when you're in, you know, your joggers and Nikes and then you're rolling around some pads to being completely covered in chainmail and weapons on you, and then you're running through the bog or you're going through a lock and it's freezing cold weather, and like you said, the elements in this played such a huge part, and there was no time to think what was my next line or what am I going to do next. It was all unpredictable, and that just made it that much more enjoyable and challenging, and we had to let go. And then you have the element, and then Mackenzie's just, you know, that's that genius filmmaking, that brilliance that he created that for us to just play. And then you got Barry Ackroyd, like you said, a cinematographer who comes from a school of documentary filmmaking, so he stuck 4 cameras, you know, around. There was 4 cameras on us, you know, and picking up elements, and it felt very, you know, it's that sort of war documentary sort of feel. So those happy accidents that would happen, you know, he'd pan and find them, and it felt very real and authentic, and we were just lucky to have that, and we're blessed to have that.
It's not all epic war scenes, though. That's the thing. We should let people know that there's a great deal of humanity in the film as well. And, you know, Billy, it's interesting with your character. I got a sense of this giant arc that he goes on. He power mad, bloodthirsty, vicious. But it didn't feel to me in the beginning of the film that that's who he was. It developed over time.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. And my approach to it, I mean, the way you just described him, you know, in the latter part of the film, kind of is him trying to fill the boots of his father. you know, his
The
father,
king,
the king, Edward I, who, you know, historically was this great tactician, this warmonger, and also quite brilliant politician, who kept this equilibrium, you know, between, you know, the region of Scotland and England, as was for a very long time. And so obviously when this act of rebellion, you know, occurs, Edward has to, the Prince of Wales has to, you know, suddenly step up to the mark, and, you know, is he adequate? And that's brought into question. So there's a real sort of balance of his ineptitude, perhaps, and the need or desire to impress his father.
Yeah, and I really felt that in those final scenes, we won't give anything away, obviously, but in those final scenes, it's all dawning on him that it's all bravado.
Bravado, again, is an interesting choice of words. We have to remember as well, I think, that these guys, there's a level of enmity here, but there's a real fealty and loyalty, and they all knew each other. They grew up together, you know, and so actually, although they're kind of trying to lop off each other's limbs, they you know, they also know each other on an intimate and, you know,
went to school together.
Exactly.
Both, Tony, you took a pilgrimage. You to prepare to play Angus in the film. Tell me a little bit about that and how it maybe grounded the character or connected you to the character.
Yeah, no, if ever I can get an opportunity to play a character in theatre or film or TV that has some sort of historical background, if I have time, it's always nice to, I don't know, just to get a vibe, you know, or pay homage, if you will. But before we started shooting, I went over to Iona, where Angus is, his grave slab, where he was buried, and a lot of the lords and sort of knights were buried, sort of the kind of, well, the beginnings of Christianity, basically, on that island, or certainly in Scotland anyway. And yeah, I went over there and I just sort of raised a wee dram of single malt to Angus and just and touched the stone. It was pretty trippy, I have to say. And I think it's on Latin. It says, you know, on his gravestone from Bruce, "One more push, Scotland's free. Lord of the Isles, my trusted knee." So, you know, he was. They were pretty tight, you know. So, but going to Iona and looking at the sort of history of that's been there, did give you a feeling of like, oh, this is very real, and you know, this happened, this time period, and to get the chance to play someone in a film like this, Angus Hogg, is a real honour, you know. But if I can touch on the collaborative process of the film, I don't think we could have achieved what we did if it wasn't for, you know, like actors like Chris, Aaron, you know, Florence, Billy, and all the guys. You know, there was a great sort of camaraderie between us all. So David's went, okay, let the hounds, you know, unleash the hounds, as it were. No, but there's a great sort of challenge within that, and if it doesn't sort of filter down, like from Chris, for instance, he was very sort of. We all had a good time as a good group of actors and as people, so I think that in many ways sort of filters into the work.
Gillian, this film will be seen around the world on Netflix, but it's playing in brick and mortar theaters, in theaters in Scotland. Why is that important to you?
We come from independent filmmaking, and for many years it's been, we've always tried very hard to find our audience, but when you're making independent films, it's difficult sometimes to raise the marketing budget. And releasing on Netflix means that we are going to find our audience. But I think it's very important for the people in Scotland that we show it theatrically as well. You saw it last night, you see how it looks.
TheScotsman.com, there's a great article by Alistair Heather that agrees with you. That's it. You should, if you haven't seen it yet, you should have a look. I'll turn it over to the assembled press here. Do we have questions? Go ahead, in the glasses. Yeah, we'll come to you with a microphone. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chris Cherbas of The Hollywood Reporter. I've got a couple of questions for you, David. On the first case, we just talked about Netflix, and how do you feel about the fact that the audience, most of the audience outside of Scotland will find the film using the Netflix algorithm rather than by traditional media or who are going to their multiplex? And secondly, also with respect to the screening, what's your take on a film shot in glorious 8K that will be seen mostly on small screens, possibly even laptops?
And I'm just going to point out, because we're pressed for time, just one question from everybody from now on. Go ahead.
I'm first of all extremely happy that the film got made at all, and that's largely due to the fact that Netflix picked it up and worked with us in a very collaborative way, and allowed us to make the uncompromising movie we have made. I'm delighted that the film is going to show on cinema screens wherever it can be, and obviously it's a big screen movie. But I'm also delighted by the reach that 191 territories released at the same time is going to give the film. And it's almost certainly going to have the widest audience of any film I've ever made. So it feels like a positive thing to me. I understand that there's some kind of suspicion around the streaming services and what they're going to do to traditional cinema. But it feels to me like a great opportunity for us to be in the vanguard. I don't honestly think that a studio would have financed this film and allowed us to make this film, certainly not in the way we did. So, thank you to Netflix for letting us do it.
Go ahead. Yeah. We'll bring a microphone to you. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, Maury Aliop, cdvm.info. For me, the film has contemporary resonance. Well, were you conscious of that making the film? And just, this is kind of a joke in a way. You can't say anything nowadays without saying Trump, but I kept seeing Trump, who would like to be living in the 13th century, wearing a crown and having people hung and drawn and quartered.
I think it's a 700-year-old story. It's a story about the sort of formation of our country, which was effectively being obliterated by its neighbouring country. All the regalia of the Scottish crown was removed, and effectively it was reduced to a region. In the feudal system, all of the knights had to swear oaths not to do anything. Robert swore an oath because he had to, and then he spent some time ruminating on that and decided to kick back. So whether there's a revolutionary message in that, there's also a message, I suppose, of trying to deal with an oppressive occupation. How that directly parallels with Mr. Trump is quite hard to work out. One of the things we're very careful about doing is not playing too much into the jingoism and nationalist idea. It's an old story where the world was a very, very different place. You look at the map of the world then, it's centered around Europe, and that's it. You know what I mean? The world now is a completely different thing. So I'm nervous about contemporary parallels with the movie for obvious reasons. But I'm determined that the kind of conclusion we made in the movie was a sort of compassion is not weakness, which is the line that Florence says. There was something about that in there as well as everything else. And that we don't play too heavily into jingoistic ideas.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, Fabian Winter for Latin America by Vanidades. I have a question for Chris. As a celebrity, do you ever feel like people treat you as a king? And were you treated as a prince when your father was, famous for Starsky and Hutch?
He wasn't a Starsky and Hutch, he was in Chips.
I'm sorry.
But,
your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's certainly an aspect of being treated differently, whether it's deserved or not. I think the danger is believing it to be deserved. If you talk about sovereignty, the divine right and the divine benighting of a monarch because they have God's grace and they are the connection to heaven. I don't find that question as interesting as the one that I wanted to answer before about power and the relationship with current politics. I think what turned me on about this story was A, David's involvement, and B, our desire to investigate a human being who comes from great wealth and great privilege, all of these qualities and things that in our Western society are deemed the most valuable, which is essentially power and the concentration of wealth and power, and how this man who comes from great wealth and power decides in a very difficult time to give up all of that pedigree and prestige and all of that safety for a very uncomfortable and unsafe environment where he puts his family at risk. And in that capacity, then is able to do something great for many, many people. And whatever relationship or whatever connections you want to make to the administration, what's happening in our country, America, I think the archetype that we're putting out there, or the notion is that there is hope in the possibility of doing selfless acts. And that is usually on the hero journey, and that Campbellian thing, usually what we always put out there is selfless is better than selfish, always. I mean, the stories are just ad infinitum all over the place in storytelling, and that deserves to be told over and over again. Otherwise, we'd just be a bunch of selfish assholes, I think.
Go ahead, right here in the white. Yep, right here.
Hi.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll get to you next.
David, Neil Smith from the BBC News. I'm sure you may be aware that your name has been very heavily tipped as a potential James Bond director with the exit of Danny Boyle, and making a film on this scale is only going to increase that conversation. Do you welcome that speculation? Is there any basis for it, and is it something you might consider in the future?
I finished this film 2 days ago, and it's been a very, very hard journey. I haven't given a second thought to what the heck I'm doing next, apart from maybe taking a break. So I can't really answer the question beyond that.
Did I read that you spent 6 months in the editing room? Is that about right?
Probably is about 6 months in the editing room. I mean, that's one of the things about the method we were working on is we shot a lot of material, and there's a lot of great stuff. So we're trying to kind of distill, and working with the editor. I've worked with on 6 films, Jake Roberts, who's a wonderful man, trying to distill all of the elements that are in this complex story, which in its own right was a distillation of a major life of a person. So yeah, no, we've had a busy time of it over the last year.
Right there.
My name is Astrid Ryan from the German press agency DPA. I wanted to ask the director, in Hell or High Water, there were 2 outlaw brothers who tried to gain back something they thought was stolen from them. And here there's again an outlaw who tries to gain back something and seems to be the weakest, as in Hell or High Water. So I wanted to ask you, why do you feel driven to those stories of the weak trying to gain back what was stolen from them, or they think it's theirs?
It's an interesting question, and one that I don't know whether I've sort of given myself the self-consciousness to ask, but I guess those stories of people trying to affect change and trying to get back whatever they can, something that's a connection, and I think there's a human connection to that. The in some way dispossessed, trying to repossess, feels like a very strong human thing for me.
Go ahead, yeah, right here. We'll get you a microphone. Yeah.
Hi, Diana from Closer Weekly. Chris, I don't know if you checked Google today, but it's like viral about your whole full frontal scene. So if you could just talk about that, if it was like awkward or out of your comfort zone, and what it was like to film.
What I find really interesting is that obviously, I mean, I could answer that in a pithy way. I just don't. We all have certain body parts, and so people want to talk about that. Yet there's so much deboweling and beheading in this film, it nearly makes your mind spin. That somehow to a human modern audience is not nearly as interesting or revelatory or exclamatory than someone showing A, a sex scene, or B, their penis. I think we as human beings should probably take a minute just to like gestate and really meditate on that. That in this kind of Western society, in this puritanical society, to show people making love, to show what we all have, is somehow a Google alert. It's a trip. I mean, it's really, if you sit and think about it for a second, it's a trip. I mean, have you seen Hereditary? She saws her head off. So let me just leave you with that. Is it out of my comfort zone? Of course. I don't want this film to be all about that moment. But what I would You know, David and I talked a lot about this. Underneath the emperor's clothes, it's human beings are mewling, puking children. So beneath President Trump and Merkel and everyone, they're all naked people that eat shit, have sex, do all the things that we do. And I thought it was really important to show that we are animals, ultimately. And there's a final scene in the film where I say that we're beasts. Not about God, and it's not about words, it's not about nothing more than like we're animals on the savannah, and that tiger's gonna come over, and one of these animals is gonna win. Sorry I get so impassioned about it, but I think it's really, I think it's something, I think it's a tribute to David's interest in the human existence, that we should think about these things, is that we have cell phones, but really ultimately, we're trying to kill one another and trying to dominate other people. And that's the animal within all of us. So I thought it was important to show that.
But considering how much gore and violence is in this movie is really about compassion and empathy in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, I think it is about the human factors in everything. But also the interesting thing is the guy is having a bath, and people don't tend to have the bars with their clothes on, and that's the kind of other peculiarity of all this interest. You know.
We just have time for a couple of more questions. We have hands in the back. Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, it's a message for Chris. Chris, as a leading man of this generation, have you had any thoughts over the last day about passing of Burt Reynolds and your memories of him as growing up and what he meant as a cinema icon?
I didn't know Mr. Reynolds other than being either a fan of cinema, and he came up around the time that my father was doing his television show, and my family knew his in a way. I think I'm reminded of many things, and I think a lot about my father, and that this industry is a very fickle one, and you have highs and you have deep, deep lows. And I know that the man had struggled for a certain number of years toward the end of his life, but our community is small, and what I do love about it is that us circus performers, when one of us passes, there is that deep respect for a man or a woman's work, and he did a lot of great work in our industry and should be applauded for that, and we'll miss many things, including, that Playgirl shoot with him on the bearskin rug.
Yeah, that's right, naked man again. Yeah. We just have time for one more. Right here, we'll give you a microphone, and then we'll have to wrap it up.
Hi, Lauren Veneziani, NBC Baltimore. First of all, I love the movie, so congratulations to everybody. Aaron, my question's for you, because I saw the movie last night, and it kind of seemed like your character was an audience favorite in the sense of the dialogue he said, a lot of lines, gained a lot of laughter from the audience at times. So I was wondering if that was intentional in your experience making the film, and how to create the character, if you kind of wanted to add a little bit of comedic element to the film, because a lot of the audience was laughing at times throughout the film.
I don't think it's ever my intention to think purely on what an audience's aspect should, how they should perceive a character or see that character. I've got to always come to it in a natural way and bring that character to life. But maybe I disagree with you, and that I feel like there's many moments in this that had many laughs. I think Tony Curran has fantastic lines that steal the scenes too. But look, this is a huge ensemble, and it's a real privilege to be with this sort of band of guys, and Florence Pugh, who stands out fantastically in this movie also. But I think we all just tackle our work the best we can, and it was
needed. Sorry, Aaron. It needed a bit of levity. This film at times, a bit of sex. Oh, look, there's someone's cock, and then some boobies and a little laugh. Oh, let's do some more chopping of the head, shall we?
Well, so it's dark and it's brutal, and yeah, absolutely. I think there is that sense of, these are a band of brothers, and there's a military sense of these guys were on the road and tour together, and there needs to be that kind of banter also, and we had to find what that was. And I think you know, we found it interesting, Tony and I, to have this kind of almost dynamic to fight over, you know, this man's attention all the time, because we both wanted to be the right-hand man. So we kind of had this little ongoing thing that if any moment we can, let's try and push each other's buttons. And that's always kind of a nice incentive for an actor to have in a scene, you know, to get this point across, but also be able to play on the side of that with another kind of dynamic. And so those themes were fun to play.
Just go ahead.
Well, I'd like to say that there was a sort of tension between the two characters at script stage, but it was one of the kind of great pleasures for me and for us all working in a kind of slightly improvisatory way, the way that dynamic evolved and became, you know, it grew from the script in a really good way, and I think it's a huge part of the movie, so I'm very happy with it.
I mean, you read about James Douglas, and he was, you know, extremely loyal and close friend to Robert the Bruce, and was his sort of right-hand man. Yeah, so was Angus. So we both were like, no, I'm his right-hand man. No, I'm his real right-hand man.
preferred
Not
redheads.
really. In
No,
history,
he
it
liked the
actually
redhead.
stated that he was, I mean, he carried his heart, and, you know, so we'd have these ongoing battles, so, which is kind of fun to have, you know.
Just on a final note, we have to wrap it up here, but I saw the movie last night with a couple of thousand other people, and it is one of those great moments when you see everyone focused on the screen that's in front of them and the sense of community that comes out. There's, you know, such a great way to see this movie because you feel the audience reacting and gasping sometimes when there's incredible violence and laughing or cooing a little bit during the more romantic scenes. And it really was a great example of an audience having empathy for the characters and what happens when you put a couple thousand people together watching the same thing. It was great. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for doing this. Thank you.